I'm going to go on now and introduce our first speaker. Let me just run you through the program a little. We're going to have three awesome speakers today. It's interesting that we're all psychologists. I think this is really an honor, for you to listen to four women who are all psychologists and bringing diversity to the discourse this morning. I think this is awesome. Aisha S. Dalhatu is a psychologist with over 5 years of experience in delivery services to individuals with mental health issues. Aisha has keen interest in humanitarian services. She attended the City University of New York and currently works with the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development as a program assistant in the Government Enterprise and Empowerment Program under its National Social Investment Programs. She has previously worked with the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants, and Internally Displaced Persons by successfully organizing and implementing programs in the Internally Displaced Persons Department, IDPs department. Fueled with passion for vulnerable mothers and their children, she hopes to make child education and mental health support destigmatized, amen, and an achievable priority. Aisha has previously offered counseling services and support to women in the northern part of Nigeria. With a beautiful daughter, her goal is to make life a healthy living experience for every mother and child. I invite Aisha Dahiru. We're honored to have you. Please go ahead.
Good morning, everyone, and I stand on existing protocols. However, I would like to point out that in the chats, I just saw Her Excellency said she's available. So if we could just give her that to speak, and then we can continue, if that's okay.
Okay, I will unmute her right away.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, Excellencies. I'm overwhelmed. One of my sisters just sent a message that I need lessons in Zoom for beginners. Don't mind her. My sister has made the introduction, but I just wanted to add that for us, we never knew Fatimah Balaraba. We never met her. She died 3 weeks after I was born, and we didn't think much about her really until my niece, Amina Nadira, was born. And our father was insisting she be named after his mother, and we're wondering where's all of this coming from. So in order to align ourselves with Fatimah Balaraba, with what she stood for, for us being here today, we wanted to name the foundation after her and try to do a little bit of what she did while she was alive. I also want to thank the speakers. They've all volunteered to be here today. It's so overwhelming. I'm very happy this is happening today. And I hope that being a single mother like myself for over 17 years, a lot of us will learn lessons and understand why some of these things need what Fatimah Balaraba is trying to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Aisha, please go ahead. It would be great if we respond to Her Excellency in the chats. I'd like to see applause. It'll be nice. Thumbs up, applause, a smiley, whatever you can share in response while Aisha gets on with her presentation.
Good morning, all. I would like to stand on existing protocols, and I would also like to offer my sincere condolences to the family of Aliyu Abubakar. Everyone that knew Aliyu knew that he shared light, he spread light to the people, he brought smiles to faces. And that's one of the lessons that anyone could ever ask for as a mother. My heart is with the family, really. I got so emotional with that introduction, but that's part of why we're here, I would like the host to please share my presentation. I think you have the presentation. Is that okay?
I do. Can you give me a minute to fetch it?
Okay.
I believe you can see my screen now.
Yeah, I can. Thank you.
Great.
So my topic for today is overcoming isolation and loneliness for the single mother, right? Who is a single mother? I think that's the most important question that we have. Single motherhood occurs when a child or children are being parented by only the mother. How do you become a single mother? Most single parents do not plan on becoming single parents. You have unplanned life events that lead to you becoming a single mother. There's so many examples of that happening. It can be through divorce, it can be through breakups, it could be through the death of a partner or a spouse. It could be the cases of abandonment, whereby the father just decides to leave. Maybe he cannot cope financially or emotionally, he leaves. It could be through adoption by single mothers, that happens. And it could be through childbirth by a single mother. So that could take on two scenarios. We have a more recent trend of people choosing to have children of their own without being married or being in relationships. And then you have cases of teenagers, unplanned pregnancies happening, and you go through with the pregnancy and you have the child and you become a single mother if that relationship does not carry on. So those are cases that lead to one becoming a single mother. The way you become a single mother might have been traumatic. It could have been, a traumatic experience that led you. It could have been choice, whatever the case. I just want to say that we have empathy towards the situation, regardless of how that happened, right? Whatever the case, you single parents tend to have unique challenges, not faced by parents that aren't single. So what does the history say about single parenthood? We have always had single mothers throughout history, but the pattern has changed over time. The prevalence of the patterns have changed over time. Usually, in the olden times of how that happens, you see mortality is the single most common way for people to become single mothers. So you lose fathers to war, you lose fathers to diseases, old age, death, things like that. That's the most common way people became single mothers. And as time started moving, we came by divorce. Divorce used to be really rare. I mean, if you look at history, divorce was not even allowed in the Catholic Church until when, a few centuries ago. So, now we have more cases of divorce. Divorce is becoming more prevalent, especially in the North. I think that's something to be discussed also. And then the most common trend that we see now is adoption by choice, which, in this part of the country is also stigmatized, but it's part of the trend, is the most recent trend that we see of people becoming single parents. Adoption by choice or giving birth, by choice as a single mother. So that's what the history says. So what are the challenges that are faced by single mothers? Usually, one of the biggest challenge, I think, is loneliness. Single mothers, they face isolation, they face social disconnection, they face financial vulnerability, they have co-parenting issues, they deal with grief. Grief can also come from divorce, it can come from death. It has so many complex emotions that accompany it. And grief, it affects both the children and the adults. So, and the way people deal with grief, there are so many ways of dealing with grief. So that affects, how you parent also. Custody issues or legal issues, if it's a case of divorce, maybe a domestic abuse, you just break out of the relationship, legal issues might arise, and you might be dealing with that, while parenting your child. You might be dealing with issues of healthcare. You might have, health conditions that you have to go with, or health conditions that arise from you being a single mother. And that will also, increase the challenges of being a single parent. Money is always an issue when you're talking about being a single mother. You become a sole breadwinner in your family, money becomes tighter. There might not be assistance programs around for you to apply for, things like that. You might even face lack of support. You might face stigmatization from the society. People might blame you for not staying in whatever situation that you are, so that you do not become that single mother. So some become single mothers by choice, to get out of whatever situation, while some, it's unplanned and it's sudden, and you just find yourself so disoriented about how that happens. But one of the biggest things I think that really brings down single mothers, and it's often ignored, it's loneliness, right? The loneliness and the lack of support and the disconnection that single mothers face, in the society, right? So when we talk about loneliness is a condition of desiring more social interactions than one is getting, and the negative emotions that the condition evokes, right? So we have three types of loneliness. We have the situational loneliness. Situational loneliness is the loneliness that comes about from changes that occur during a person's life. You have developmental loneliness, which is when a person feels like they're not developing at the same rate as others. You have internal loneliness, which is deeply rooted loneliness in one's personality and the inability to make meaningful connections, right? And of these three, loneliness can be transient or chronic. So a transient loneliness, is temporary loneliness. You might, it might be really short. It might take a short while, but you eventually get over it. But chronic loneliness, it's long-term feeling of isolation, right? But I think the loneliness that pertains more to the single mother is situational loneliness. It's the type of loneliness that occurs as a result of a person's change in environment, or when their needs are not being adequately met. It can arise from changes in a person's life, from divorce, death, separation, things like that, loss of a loved one, disability, moving to another state. But one of the things that really contributes to situational loneliness is social isolation. Social isolation is, a situation whereby a person lacks contact and emotional support from other people. A subtype of loneliness, so loneliness have many subtypes. Out of those definitions, it has many subtypes. You have single mother loneliness, you have married loneliness, you have motherhood loneliness. There's so many types of loneliness. But I think the one that pertains to this more is single, it's called single loneliness, right? It's a situational loneliness that arises from when your emotional, your romantic, your sexual needs are not being met. You have this feeling that you should be in a relationship, right? And that desire is not being fulfilled. So that pertains more to the single mother. When you look at a home, the mother is usually the biggest support that we have, in a home. You can't take that out. You can't take that out. She's the support beam of the home. She meets the needs of everyone. She makes sure everyone is taken care of. Mommy, have you seen this? Mommy, have you seen my keys? Mommy, have you seen me? Mommy, have you seen my shoes? Mommy this, mommy that, mommy, mama, everything. You know, you go to her for everything. You're in trouble, she's the first person you call. You're happy, she's the first person you call. She's your comfort, she knows your favorite food, she knows all of that, right? So, but oftentimes, you know, there's that support somehow, you know, that support. Oh, I couldn't find your shoes, go ask your dad. I couldn't find this, go ask your dad, you know, ask your dad for this. For the single mother, she might not have that privilege. You know, your child might learn to ride a bike and you might not have anyone to share it with. Your child might be abused and you might not have that partner to share it with. So, you know, the defeats, the triumphs that comes with motherhood or parenthood, you might be the only one that shares that, you know. Your child might be receiving, you know, a gift in school, graduating, and you'd have to be the only person that goes for that. So that really, you know, takes a toll. It takes a toll on someone, you know, to deal with that. One of the biggest things also I think that we have to talk about when you talk about single motherhood, aside, you know, what I talked about, the emotional, lack of emotional support and whatnot, is the financial strain. We have to acknowledge that. You have to work overtime to make ends meet. It gets really tasking on you. You become so frustrated, you worry so much about money, you have to think about school fees. I mean, it might be a case of co-parenting whereby the other parent helps, but you're still an adult that's responsible for you and your child in some situations. So you have to think about that. You have to be financially independent. So that leads to a lot of worry. Because you work too much, you develop feelings of guilt because no, you feel like you need a break. No, you feel like you can't do this for your child. No, you feel like you cannot go out with your friends. So, you know, the guilt weighs you down. So, you know, things like that, it amplifies the loneliness, anxiety, and that in turn, it's like a chain of events. That in turn, you know, lead to other mental health issues. It can lead to things like depression and anxiety, right? So what does it feel like to be a single mother, right? You feel stigmatized by the society. You'll hear things like, Takasha Aurenta, Tabuto, she left her marriage. Why couldn't she have stayed in the marriage? Why couldn't she just have stayed? Everyone else is patient. Haƙuri ake shine zaman aure. Ta kashe aurenta ta fito. So you hear things like that, which means, you know, why couldn't she have just taken whatever it is, if it's physical abuse, financial abuse, emotional abuse, why couldn't she have just taken that and stayed in the marriage so that she is still in the marriage? And you know, there are cases that arise whereby you are married, but you're a single parent because the other parent is just not present at all. So you feel stigmatized by the society, you feel shamed, you're always tired, you're battling exhaustion because you have to be up, you have to make sure the kids are taken care of, you have to take care of your own needs as an adult, you have to go to your job and things like that. You often feel like you know nobody understands what you're going through. This is so much. You're all alone. There's nobody to comfort you. There's nobody to share all these things at night. Oh, you're so tired. Your child spilled the drink on the bed, and you know you can't even complain to anyone. You don't feel that. On top of that, you know all the money issues keep piling up. You know, once you have a potential partner that comes to you, some of them might actually go away because they feel like, oh, she's a single mother with kids. I don't want to be dragging all that burden on me. I rather just leave. You know, I rather, you know, in the house, well, they say, or, I cannot bring agula. Agula is when you marry somebody else and you take your kids from a previous marriage into the new marriage and they stay in the home. A lot of people avoid those situations. It also stigma, your kids are also stigmatized in that situation. Also, you're worried about, entering a new relationship because of the wounds of the past relationship. So past emotional trauma can prevent you from entering into like a new relationship, right? So what does the society do to amplify loneliness, right? And what do we do to ourselves also to increase that feeling of loneliness within us, right? When you look at the culture of a society, that places high emphasis on being in a relationship. So you once you get to a certain age, you have to be in that monogamous or sometimes polygamous relationship, but you have to be like in a relationship, right? You have to find someone, you have to be with someone. So when you're not in that, the society makes you feel like, oh, you have to have that. So pressure comes with that feeling. You also consider yourself your best when you're in a relationship. So you don't think you're good enough unless you're in a relationship. You feel like you do everything best. I rather have that partner. Let me have a husband, before I'm considered something. You tend to minimize all the achievements that you get. You graduate, you get a new car, you do this, you get a promotion, but still, that gratitude is not fully felt within you because you lack that relationship, right? Another thing, I know I keep saying it, the financial constraints, it amplifies, it makes you feel like you have to do this. And when you're around people, you feel so lonely because you're the only one that's not a couple. So this person got married, this person did this person, they're together. Oh, this person, there's, Saturdays are for weddings. Is that the same? Every Saturday there's a wedding. You're the oldest in your house, and all your younger ones, they're married, and you're not married, or you're not, so you're sharing a home with your younger ones, everyone, they're now married. So what are the signs and symptoms of loneliness, right? You have decreased energy, you have decreased appetite. In some cases, you have increased appetite. So you tend to overeat. You're constantly eating. You're not trying to drown out that emotion. You have sleep-related issues. You find difficulty falling asleep. You have difficulty staying asleep. You can't stay asleep for a long time. You just stay in bed, staring at the wall, thinking, worrying. You're always anxious. You're always restless. Your body hurts. You wouldn't know. You just feel body aches all the time. You're always in pain. You abuse substances. We have cases of that happening. You begin to have self-doubt about yourself. You look for distractions so that you're not faced with the reality of your life. So things like binge watching all day, every day. You're constantly on your Facebook, you're constantly on Instagram, you're constantly on WhatsApp, Facebook, every single time of the day, so that you have that sort of distraction, right? Whenever you're around people, you feel patronized by people who comment on your relationship status. So anything like, so how you doing? How are the kids? You read it as, oh, she meant something else, or he meant something else. What does he mean? How are the kids? Is it because he didn't ask, oh, why don't I have a spouse or something like that? So you feel patronized by people. You feel pressure to get another new partner. So there's that pressure, okay, let me get back in the game so that people stop asking me what's going on, what's happening, when am I going to get a new spouse? You feel jealous, feelings of jealousy arise. In some cases, you feel jealous oh, look at them, they are having a baby, or they travel, or look, relationship goals, these people are goals. So you have feelings of jealousy, right? You start making disparaging comments towards men, like, oh, all men are scum, men are this, men are that, I hate men, why can't men be this? That's how men are. You generalize, whatever past behavior you encountered towards men. You minimize your achievements because you rank, a relationship as being higher. You put pressure on a potential new relationship to work out. So you become clingy, right? You suffocate people, oh, just make it, let's move to the next stage. You meet this guy today, he's like, hi, hello, you're like, yeah, you want to get married? It doesn't work that way. So those are all, symptoms of loneliness, right? You lie, you become a liar, it happens. You lie to cover up, the added burden that comes with being a single mother, right? So you have to go pick up your kids from school, and you have to lie to your boss because you don't want to have to say, oh, I'm doing school runs again today, or my kid is sick, I can't come in today. So you lie, you start avoiding your friends and your family, being in social places because you don't want to confront your situation. You feel ashamed of that situation. Whenever you are around social interactions, the only thing you can talk about is your children, right? You talk about them, they did this, they did that. So you're unable to have a productive adult conversations, and you only focus on the kids because you can only spotlight that. You do not want to bring attention to anything else, right? You feel shame when asking for help with the children. And you have a difficult time when your children visit the other parents. So the loneliness really sets in, and it weighs in heavy in case of divorces or shared custody. It weighs you down because that kid that you have focused all that energy on is not around anymore. So that amplifies your loneliness. And then you substitute your children for adult partners. You tell them all the adult issues, things they don't know. You sit a 5-year-old down, you're telling her all the things she has no business knowing, things like financial issues, relationship issues, past abuses. You discuss it with the children. So those are all symptoms of loneliness. So the thing with loneliness is that it tends to have health implications. There's a lack of physical and emotional health somewhere, right? So we have many studies that look at it and show you that loneliness actually has led to higher risk of early death. It has worsened mental conditions. It has worsened cardiovascular issues. Another study that was done, I think it was in Switzerland, has found that loneliness has been linked to chronic illness, high cholesterol, emotional distress, diabetes, depression, chronic sleep issues, chronic stress. It also really affects your sleep quality. We all know that, having a really good night's sleep is really vital to your overall health. There was a study done about twins that suggests that young adults who feel lonely tend to have lower quality of sleep, and adults with lower quality of sleep have difficulty functioning through the day, right? So it affects your sleep quality, increases. It has a very high link with depression, which is a diagnosable condition, right? So, and stress also, chronic stress. Once you deal with chronic loneliness, it can lead to chronic stress. So I would like to really point out that if you're feeling really, really lonely and you don't know why and you can't shake that feeling, it's really advisable that you seek out mental health to get you help, right? They can help you with your situation. They can give you medication. They can bring out like routines for you to help you out. So what are the other implications of loneliness, right? It affects the way you bond with your child. So that child is the most important part of your life now. You have spotlighted everything onto that child, but because you're feeling lonely, you cannot give to that child. So you are not able to bond with that child properly, right? You have issues being a functional parent. So you cannot get out of bed. You spend all day in bed, which means you can't go to your job, which means, it adds to the whole financial vulnerability issues, poverty. A lot of single mothers face poverty. It increases your low self-esteem because you're feeling so down. You feel like you have not achieved what you're supposed to achieve. And that translates to the child, right? They pick up from you. Whatever you're doing, you're giving the child. So they also develop low self-esteem. They feel like they're not good enough because they're not in that two-parent household. You're not able to connect properly with potential new partners and develop like healthy relationships. So because you're constantly feeling down, you're so lonely, you're doing this, the healthy relationship, indicators of it, you miss indicators for a healthy relationship. So you might have left, an abusive relationship, but because you couldn't shake all that feeling and all that emotional stress, you're finding it difficult to enter into a healthy one, right? You have increased poor health in general. You have body aches all the time, body pain. You're unable to take care of the kids properly. They develop their own sicknesses because you're generally down. And in some cases, you have toxic parenting, because you internalize a lot of, the way you're stigmatized and the way you feel you're being treated. You pass that on to the children, and maybe you blame men for this, men for that, and you pass that on to the children. So you have cases of toxic parenting. But I would like to point out that being a single mother can be advantageous, right? Some women end their marriages to get freedom, right? They gain freedom, they're away from emotional abuse, physical abuse, financial abuse. They have, even though it comes with all that extra responsibility, but exactly what needs to be done in your house and how to accomplish it. There's no one there to argue with, there's no one to fight. You know what your budget is for the month. You might not be aware how tiresome it is, to always nag the other person. You didn't do this, you didn't do that, you're not doing this, until you have that freedom and you have this weight lifted off you. You parent better when you're alone. You can finally focus on being that parent that you always wanted to be by being that single parent. There's a lack of fighting between the parents, so the children do not internalize that. They're not put in that situation whereby they develop their own mental issues and emotional issues. You make so positive decisions regarding your kids, so you know exactly what they want, what they need. You're able to give them that. You're able to bond more with the children because that negativity has been taken away. So you can focus on the kids. In the case of a lost parent, whereby the child is also suffering from the loss, the death of the other parent, the father in this case, right? You can bond with that child. You can help that child heal from, that scar. You can build your own self-esteem, and you have the opportunity to model positive, ethical behaviors for your children, right? So what is the way forward with loneliness, regarding loneliness, right? I think one of the best ways that you can move forward when being a single mother and you're dealing with loneliness and isolation is to put this in the back of your mind: self-care. Self-care is the single most important thing that you can do to yourself, right? So taking care of your physical and emotional well-being. You have to remember that you cannot pour from an empty cup or a non-existent cup, because you can actually get sick to the point that you do not exist, right? You die. So, or if you're sick, you're sick, you're an empty cup, and you cannot give your child any of that. You should seek out mental professionals when you begin to feel dissociated due to loneliness, stress, depression, those feelings you can't shake. There are many supports available for you to go through, right? When you seek out that mental health, if you're given medications or guidelines or routines.
Pardon me, Aisha. I see your chats. We've run over time. This is very important, but we need to speed it up a little. Thank you.
All right, no problem. Almost done, right? So you should learn to accept help from family, to accept help. You should get a support network. If it means, forming a group of single moms, you should do that. You should focus on the positive. You nurture friendships. Erase that guilt, that feeling that this is your fault. It's not your fault. You found yourself in the situation. Pursue your passion, break distracting habits, and be open and honest with your children, right? And know what you're in control of and what you're not. Exercise, pray, meditate, clear out clutter in the house, maybe begin journaling. Journaling really, really helps when you're feeling lonely, right? And what can the society do when it comes to erasing loneliness, right? We have to be able to destigmatize single motherhood. We have to have social protection programs that take into account single households, offer counseling services and healthcare to single parents, erase that double standard that is faced by single mothers, support research, resources, think tanks, NGOs that deal with single mothers, and overall have empathy for the single mother, please. And please, all the single mothers out there, please remember that you are not alone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Aisha. That was truly something. I've been writing notes, and at a point I got a little bit teary. Single motherhood can be so deep, and every time I run an academy, a 6-session academy for single mothers, and after each session, I realized that every single case is different, and this is so key, for us to begin to understand the kind of solutions, the kind of support, and the kind of thing that needs to happen with single mothers. So thank you very much, Aisha. That was truly awesome. Thank you.